Detroit's emergency manager wants to make a deal on health care, and the ballot for mayor of Detroit will have one less choice on it come August, plus the uproar in Lansing over Medicaid expansion. It's all coming up next. MiWeek starts right now.
Michigan's turnaround is being powered by things we do better than anywhere else in the world. Today's global leaders routinely turn to Michigan to work on their most difficult problems. That's because the engineering talent in this part of the world is simply the best. So many possibilities lie ahead for Michigan's future. These opportunities are here and starting to happen. The vision for the new Michigan. Share it, talk it up, drive it home.
A route map shows you where we go, but not how we get there. Because in this business, there are no straight lines, only the twists and turns of an unpredictable industry. So the 80,000 employees at Delta must anticipate the unexpected and never let the rules overrule common sense. This is how we tame the unwieldiness of air travel, until it's not just lines you see, it's the world.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christy McDonald. It was an intense news roller coaster this week. The feds dig for Hoffa, a new arena and retail complex for Midtown, a nasty Medicaid showdown in Lansing, and a political shocker in the Detroit mayoral race. So where to start tonight? Well, how about the clock that's ticking on Detroit's emergency financial manager, Kevin Orr, to make a deal with creditors? Word is he's close to a deal with some, but late this week, moves to change health care for city retirees and current workers. Plus, Orr called for an investigation into the city's pension funds amid concerns of corruption. Let's get the very latest and put it all in perspective for you tonight with our MiWeek contributors, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, it's great to see you.
It's good to be here.
You know, I think we could have started with any one of those stories that we talked about. This has been a nonstop week.
Next week we won't have a thing to talk about.
I know, you'll
watch.
be sitting here saying, what are we going to
Don't
talk about
say that.
now?
Now you just jinxed us.
All right, so let's jump right in with Kevin Orr. It's been a week since the big meeting out at the airport. What kind of progress has he made, Nolan?
Well, he says he's making some pretty good progress with some of the major institutional creditors, and that he expects he'll get deals with the banks and the bondholders. That's not where his problem's going to be. His problem's going to be with the pension funds and retirees. You know, you ask the banks to take a haircut, they write that off. They've got insurance, whatever. You ask the pension funds to take the kind of hit he's asking them to hit, and some retiree out on the east side or up out in the suburbs somewhere is losing half of their monthly income and losing their health care. That is some real human impact that it's going to be hard for these funds to accept.
Yeah, I mean, really, Stephen, I mean, you're talking about those banks, they're faceless, but then when you're saying how is this actually going to impact a large majority of the retirees?
Yeah, not a day goes by right now that I don't get a call from a pensioner in Detroit saying, you know, why is everyone blaming us for this? You know, my check is, you know, $250 a month. How could that be what's breaking the city? And it sort of points to the disconnect with pensions. The cost of the pension funds, because of the number of retirees that we're servicing, because of bad investments made by the pension boards, because of the contracts that they have with the city for how much the city has to contribute. That's what's driving the insolvency, but that doesn't make its way, that sort of largesse or waste doesn't make its way into people's checks, but that's who's going to pay for this. And that's, I mean, it is the tragedy of this whole
And that's
thing.
a great point, and it doesn't get talked about enough. The mismanagement of these funds, since the stock market recovery started, everybody else is doing quite well with their investments. These funds aren't. They're lagging behind.
What happened?
Well, it's mismanagement. You had the Kilpatricks sucking money out of them with a straw for a long time. And the people who suffer now are the folks who depend on these funds for their monthly income. But they've been grossly mismanaged. They're well underfunded. The city stopped making payments, borrowed money out of the funds that it could never pay back. And here you sit today.
So Kevin Orr has announced an investigation into the pension funds. Is Detroit unique in the mismanagement, do you believe?
Oh, no. In fact, if you go to some of the other cities that are in in bankruptcy right now around the country. You're seeing the same things there, that they're looking into this mismanagement. The difference here, I think, is the scale of the mismanagement and the size of the funds. I mean, these are giant pools of money that have been shorted by people's bad decisions. I ran into someone Thursday night who represents the pension funds, and he was filling my ear about how unfair this all was.
Is it unfair?
Well, it is unfair. It's unfair to the people who are going to be feeling the consequences. I mean, the pensioners themselves are not guilty of anything. I mean, they worked for the city. They signed up for the pension that was offered. It's their representatives who did poorly. But this guy was still in my ear about how the pension fund's not underfunded, and that's going to be a narrative you're going to hear them really push. That the actuaries that Kevin Orr has got to look at the pension funds are somehow making this up. They're undervaluing assets. They're counting this wrong, or they're counting that wrong, and so there's this delusion still that they're indulging. That's, I think, very dangerous, because it's time to be very honest with the people who get these pensions about what's going to happen.
Okay,
It's
so
a
Nolan,
choice
who do we believe, though?
Well, I have no expertise in looking at the numbers, but what Kevin Orr is doing here, I mean, I would suspect that Kevin Orr is right, given how everything else we've seen in the city. But the choice Kevin Orr is making here is, do you shortchange and punish the citizens of Detroit, make this city even more unlivable than it is today, drive even more people out? Or do you ask retirees to take a hit? It's a horrible choice he's making, but he's decided that the interest of 680,000 Detroiters are more important than the interest of retirees and current workers. So that's where the heat's coming out. His other choice would be to slash police services, slash other services, raise taxes, do all of these other harsh things on residents, and accelerate the exodus out of Detroit.
And you're
Well,
not
in
going to get
fact-
people moving in either if you
And
do
in
things
fact,
like that.
he can't raise taxes. I mean, we already pay the
You're already
maximum
at the height.
in Detroit.
So, but does he have the legal ability to be able to cut these pensions?
Oh yeah, I think he does, and he cites in his report that our Constitution protects pensions, and there's no question that it does. It's very explicit. But if you don't have the money, that's all just it's dicta. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. And his position is, we are out of cash. We don't have more money to make up, what is it, $3.5 billion shortfall.
But it doesn't
pension
protect,
funds.
the Constitution, I don't think, protects it from voluntary changes if
If
the
they
parties
can
agree.
come to an
now,
agreement.
The question is whether they're going to take their chance in bankruptcy court or take the deal that Orr offers. You're starting to hear some of the union officials say, look, we'd rather go into bankruptcy court and make a case that it's better to sell things like the DAIA art than to take grandma's pension and cut it in half. And they're going to, they may roll the dice and put this thing into bankruptcy.
Okay, what about on the meetings this week about health care and the changes for retirees and also for current workers right now? Is that a viable option?
Well, again, there's no choice. There is no more money. That's another giant underfunded liability. I think that one's $5 billion over the next 30 years. We don't have it. You could make, Kevin Orr said that if he stopped doing everything in the city, had no services at all, and just paid those obligations, he'd still have to use all of the city's money for 20 years to make good on it. So there's just no choice. Now, he may catch a break because the exchanges, the health exchange, if we can get that up and running, that will offer a low-cost alternative to some of these folks. Maybe you give them $500 a month to be able to go get health care there. If you expand Medicaid, that will help some other people.
We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Yeah.
He does have the authority, though, to kill the health care, both
That's-
for
yeah,
retirees
yeah.
and for current workers. And I believe in these negotiations, he's trying to leverage that to get a perhaps more savings out of health care and take less hit on retirees on pensions.
Okay, so bottom line, what's our timeline now, again, over these next, what are we
It's
looking at,
30
weeks?
days.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think you will see the unions make a lot of noise early about, well, we'll take our chances in bankruptcy court. We're not going to take this. They got to do that for their members, But I think when they sit down and really look at the analysis here and the lack of funding and where they would be in line in bankruptcy court, which is not at the front, I think they don't have much choice but to take this, or some variation of it.
All right. Well, the other big story out of Detroit this week, one less candidate on the ballot for mayor. Last week, a Wayne County judge ordered Mike Duggan removed from the ballot, saying he didn't fulfill the residency requirement. And on Tuesday, the Michigan Court of Appeals upheld that ruling. So on Wednesday, Duggan said, "I'm out." What does this mean for the race? And what about the speculation on Duggan's next move? First off, was this a surprise to you that he just said, forget it, I'm not going to take this any further?
It was. I thought, what did he have to lose to go to the Supreme Court? He didn't think he could win once he got there for a lot of reasons. He told me this week that when he looked at the complaint that Tom Barrow had filed, when he looked at the case, he said, my God, I think he's got me, because the way the charter is written. I don't think the charter was intended to be written that way, but it is. And these courts ruled strictly on the language, and he just didn't feel like he could prevail. I thought he should have given the Supreme Court a chance to clarify things and stand up on behalf of a more inclusive election law, but he didn't think he could win. Now, he still wants to be around Detroit, he says. He still wants to help out. He says he's got good relationships with the governor's office and would like for the governor to find a role for him in helping bring Detroit back. So we'll see what that looks like.
Okay, so this is obviously Mike Duggan loses. Who else loses in this?
Well, I think the people who signed his petitions clearly lose, but I think statewide, you've now got an appeals court ruling that favors these sort of minor technicalities over access to the ballot and voter participation, which is a very dangerous precedent. And the Supreme Court sort of kicked the door open to some of this last year with some of their rulings. We need them. The reason I wanted him to appeal this was to clear it up going down the road, that it's not okay. It's not okay to use election law, as Nolan has said, as a gotcha game. That's not the purpose of it. It is supposed to be inclusive. It's supposed to be there to make sure that people can get access to the ballot. These were abominable rulings in that context, and the courts should be ashamed of themselves, frankly. But it goes back to that city charter, which was it's
just
ambiguous.
It's just a mess, and you've got rule of law judges saying, "Look, I've got a rule on what the thing says. I can't go back and try and discern intent." And the charter in many areas is it was just a bad job.
Well, I mean, the other wrinkle here that no one has really talked much about is the role of the clerk. If those petitions were invalid when Duggan presented them, the clerk should have said, "Well, I can't take those from you, right?
Right.
You've got to wait 2 weeks or whatever it was until you're at a full year." That's a breakdown in the system too. If this is the interpretation that was going to be used, the clerk had a role to play because he had a right as a candidate to remedy the.
Yeah, I mean, if he turned it in and she put the stamp on it, you'd think that, okay, well then I'm good.
And the election commission certified him.
That's right.
And he contends that she urged the candidates to file their petitions early to facilitate the verification process. So, he was again. I mean, it was.
It was a colossal misstep too. So what does this mean for Benny Napoleon, who's now the front runner here? Where do Mike Duggan's votes go? To who? Is there another candidate that's going to surge forward, or does Benny Napoleon have this?
It's Detroit, right? Anything can happen.
We use that answer about 50 times a week.
I think you'd be crazy to predict anything in this race at this point. Right now, it does look like it's Napoleon's to lose, but the news happens every day around here, and something else could come up, and he could get knocked out. I still think the field is very, very weak, and I will go back to what I said 6 weeks ago. I think everybody now would love to have Dave Bing among the choices on that ballot, and the fact that he's not. Nothing you can do about it now.
Nothing you can do about any of it now. I would suspect some of those votes would go to Lisa Housey, perhaps. I mean, Lisa Housey. I mean, she performed well in the debate we had up on Mackinac, and she's been, she's of the field one of the more rational candidates.
All right. So what does Mike Duggan do next? Is he running for governor?
No.
Well, I saw that headline, and okay, we have to talk about it a little bit. But
He
what
is
what is
not
his
running for
what's his
governor.
logical next move? Does this make the Wayne County executive race a lot more interesting?
He said he absolutely doesn't want to do that. He may not run for any office. He may, he said he's going to look for business opportunities. Remember, this guy has been in business for the last 7, 8 years and made a whole lot of money. I don't think I don't think he burns to have an elected office. I think he would have liked to have been the mayor of Detroit, but I don't think he wants to be the Wayne County executive. And I don't think he's going to run against Rick Snyder for governor. I don't think he's that stupid.
End of the elective road for Mike Duggan?
I don't think it's the end of the, I think this is a guy who, despite having, a lot of money and having done really well at DMC, I think he's somebody who's really driven and feels like he's got something to offer. He's got to find the way to do that. I wouldn't rule out, another elective office if he thinks he could win. And Wayne County executive, I don't know, maybe with Ficano being as weak as he is.
He's not going to run for that. What he says is, I've been there.
Sure.
He's not going to run for that office. But you can do a lot of good outside the elective process. You can have a lot of impact, and in many ways you can do more. And he may find a role for himself outside.
It's interesting though, because he obviously has passion and he has drive and he has connections. And for someone then to say, well, forget it, I'm not going to do any kind of political office.
Well, I don't think he's going to run against Rick Snyder. That doesn't mean he's not someday going to run for governor. Rick Snyder won't be on the ballot in 4 years, and Democrats will again be looking for a candidate, and there'll probably be a lot of pressure on him to run.
I also want to mention that Detroit City Councilman Kwame Kenyatta is resigning today. You wrote a column this week.
Nolan won't leave him alone.
Well, he hasn't showed up for work since February, and since November, actually. He's barely been around. He says he's sick. Well, we all appreciate that people get sick, but in the meanwhile, he's out there writing books, promoting books, having, book luncheons. He walks through City Hall, and folks say he looks fine. I think he's just sick of his job. I don't doubt his illness, but he's clearly sick of his job. He went on a long diatribe about the council doesn't mean anything, it has no authority, there's no reason to be there. Well, if you feel that way, he's doing the right thing to get out and stop drawing a paycheck that he's not earning.
Is he doing the right thing?
Oh, I think so, and he has very strong feelings that, I disagree with the conclusion, but he feels like, Detroiters were done dirty on this emergency manager deal. The council has been relegated to almost no power at all, so I think the honorable thing to do in that situation is to say, I don't want to be part of this. He probably should have done it when they appointed Kevin Orr.
All right, well, let's take you to Lansing now. Governor Snyder cut short his trip to Israel, but it didn't help bring Medicaid legislation to a vote. Yesterday, the governor, visibly frustrated, lashed out at Senate Republicans, saying they should take a vote, not a vacation. So what happens now? This was very interesting how this came down to the wire yesterday.
The governor got on a plane to come back to say, get your act together.
He was angry.
He was, because he had the 20 votes. And that's what you can't get lost here. He had 20 votes. He had 10 Republican votes, or he actually had 21 votes, I think. He had all the Democrats, all 11 Democrats, and he had 10 Republican votes. He had enough votes to pass this thing, and Randy Richardville wouldn't put it to a vote. Now, Richardville should have put that to a vote. He embarrassed his governor. He put Rick Snyder in a bad position, a bad situation. Snyder invested capital by coming back from Israel and lobbying on it, and Richardville just thumbed his nose at him, and it really for no good. This was not going to stick to Richardville.
No, I don't think it's going to hurt. I don't think it's going to hurt Richardville. And I'm puzzled a little. I have not talked to Randy about this, but I'm a little puzzled about what his calculus was here, his political calculus. I'm not sure who he thought he was providing cover for. You had Republicans, 10 Republicans say, look, I think I can do this. And then you have leadership say, well, I won't do it because of the minority who say, well, we don't want it at all. That's not a good example of leadership. I'm a pretty big fan of Richardville's generally, and the way he's run the Senate way better than Jace Bolger's run the House. But in this case, he really just booted this.
And Bolger
deserves credit. Yeah.
He put this bill together, but Bolger, Snyder thought they had a deal with Richardville.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons you saw the governor in a rare display of anger. They thought they had a deal with Richardville to bring it to a vote, and he would never bring it to the vote, and it was extraordinarily frustrating.
I think things like that play out like they did play out yesterday is what really frustrates people about Lansing. And they say, well, if you had a deal, I mean, how come things like this can't get done? So let me ask you this. Going forward, what does this say for Governor Snyder's relationship with Randy Richardville and his ability to get anything done coming up after?
They'll work
it out. But how do you work that out? It embarrassed him.
For now, but this will come back in the fall, and they'll start again, and they'll be working in perhaps a different environment. One of the things that happened yesterday, you had a lot of folks out there putting pressure on Richardville, saying, look, if we stop this in Michigan, maybe we can force a rewrite of the law nationwide. That was going around yesterday morning, a lot of phone calls being made. You're not going to get rid of Obamacare, but Richardville made a calculation that still a majority of people oppose this law, and nothing they do that slows this law down is going to hurt them politically. They'll work on it over the summer. He and the governor have worked together on a lot of things, and they'll continue to do so.
What does that conversation look like, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think, Governor Snyder has given in on a lot of stuff with this crazy Republican caucus in the legislature, stuff that he says he's not about, but he's like, well, that's what they want to do. I won't stand in the way. Now he asked them for something that means something to him, and they stiff him. I think he's got to re-examine the relationship he has with legislators. As governor, he's got to be able to control his own caucus.
Well, that's a bit of an overstatement, though, Steve. This governor has gotten a lot from the legislature, too.
He has.
That pension tax was not easy. He continued to get education reform last year. Even though many in his own caucus were afraid to do things. I don't think so. He pointed out yesterday that they've still continued to make huge progress on regulatory
This has been the least productive of the legislative sessions since he's been governor.
In
terms of his agenda.
His agenda is all about improving the business climate.
Roads,
and they get a lot of things.
Medicaid.
And they'll have a road deal. I mean, they didn't get it all once, but they'll have a road deal this fall. I predict they'll have a Medicaid deal this fall.
All right, well, because let's bring it back around to Medicaid. What is the future for that?
We're going to have to do it. There's no good reason to leave this money on the table and essentially have Michiganders subsidize Medicaid expansions in other states, which is exactly what's going to happen. I mean, there's nothing, the frustrating thing about this is that there's nothing conservative about the argument that they're making. It's foolish.
That's just absurd, Steve. Of course there is. This is not just about Republican Pike. A lot of people don't believe, and forgive them for that, the president's promise that this is not going to cost the state money. We know for 3 years.
But we know it'll cost us money if we don't do it now.
We know for 3 years this great expansion of Medicaid, this great expansion of another entitlement is going to be paid for by the federal government if it can afford it. But there's no assurances beyond that the state won't get stuck with the bill.
So you fix it
in 4 or 5, it's much harder to repeal an entitlement than it is not to get into it in the first place. And a lot of folks are worried that 4 or 5 years from now, the choice is going to be, do we continue these massive welfare payments and cut education, cut roads,
or how about
everything
this?
else?
How about this? Raise
word.
the money to pay for it.
Sure. That's the answer to everything. Let's make this an extraordinarily high tax state, and then see where the jobs come from.
Let's hope there's some meaningful conversation when they come back from their summer recess. It's time now for headlines. All right, other big headline this week, of course, it's summertime, so there is another look for Jimmy Hoffa. He still remains missing. I know there is closure for the family that they are looking for. Does the FBI have to be very careful before they decide to bring out a backhoe ever again on this case?
Well, not until they've dug up my driveway. I think he's underneath there.
You just want a new driveway.
So,
I mean, do you think that the FBI has to be really careful now?
I think it's getting close to the realm of joke kind of, what are you doing? They do have an obligation to follow good leads. I mean, this is a big crime that was committed, or they think was committed at some point, and I think there's the person who finds him, of course, will have done a great service. So,
but how absurd! Last week they brought a cadaver dog out to sniff for a 40-year-old corpse. That dog must have one heck of a nose.
Well, all right, Nolan, what did you see?
Well, it's River Days today, tomorrow, Sunday through Monday, fireworks, River Days on the Detroit riverfront. If you haven't been down to that river walk, it's a great opportunity to come and see. That is one of the true jewels of Detroit. And a lot of people go down there and won't realize it's not a city-funded park. It's not city-owned. It's all private supported. So go down there and take a look.
And
Private
State's
state,
got
the
all
state
that,
park,
yeah.
but it's not the city. They raise the money from private donors. So go down and take a look, write a check.
And you'll see Nolan on the carousel.
Oh,
He
just
loves that
round and
carousel.
round.
He does. All right, go ahead, Stephen. We'll end with you.
Saturday we have the 50th anniversary of the Martin Luther King's March in Detroit, which preluded the March in Washington. So I will be out there taking photos.
That'll be nice. You'll post it on,
will post
on
it.
Facebook and
I
on
will
Twitter.
post it.
You can follow Stephen there. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. That's going to do it for us. That's all the time that we have for MiWeek. If you missed any of our shows, you'll find them at MiWeek.org. And we are on Facebook and on Twitter. For all of us at Detroit Public Television, I'm Christy McDonald. Have a great weekend. Make sure you come back and see us next week for MiWeek. Take care.
Business Leaders for Michigan is dedicated to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and economic growth. Learn more at businessleadersformichigan.com.
A route map shows you where we go, but not how we get there. Because in this business, there are no straight lines, only the twists and turns of an unpredictable industry. So the 80,000 employees at Delta must anticipate the unexpected and never let the rules overrule common sense. This is how we tame the unwieldiness of air travel, until it's not just lines you see, it's the world.